Good evening, everyone. Hi. Tonight I'm here to ask a question. Can mental disorder be a superpower? Junior year of college. I'm sitting in front of my laptop at 2 a.m. for the third night in a row, typing furiously into a Word document called My Religion. I'm writing phrases such as God equals the origin of truth, and dream equals what we personally know as truth. In 4 hours, my only interruption is an urgent trip to the bathroom, and by the time I'm back, I've had 5 more ideas to write down. I've become obsessed with an apple on my desk, how it represents the circle of life, the fruit becoming the seed, the Adam and Eve story. And like any college student who wants to share his excitement at 6 in the morning, I call my parents. My dad being a psychiatrist, my mom a social worker. They know something is up, so they drive from DC to New Haven, where they take me to a school psychiatrist. He asks me questions, then sends me to a hospital, where another doctor tells me I'm bipolar. I don't know what this means, but I know it's something I don't want to be. I'm steady, stable, reliable. I'm not crazy. I tell almost no one for 9 years. I'm ashamed of having lost my mind, scared of losing it again, and terrified that if people know, it could cost me friendships, my position as music director of my a cappella group, the chance to get a good job. I think I'm weak. I think I'm alone. I have yet to learn that, in the words of Ernest Hemingway, who himself was likely bipolar, we are all broken. That's how the light gets in. So, what is bipolar? Formerly known as manic depression, bipolar is a mood condition characterized by alternating periods of mania, highs, and depression, lows. These highs and lows can cycle over the course of months, weeks, or even within the same day. I call it a mood condition and not illness because I think the word illness implies there's something wrong with me, whereas it's just a part of who I am. We don't know what causes bipolar, but we do know some of its biological correlates. An increase in sodium between cells, a dysregulation of calcium, a shrinkage of the hippocampus, where memories are stored, and a thinning of the gray matter in the frontal and temporal regions of the brain, centers of cognition and emotional processing. Bipolar certainly comes with its challenges. Depression, which I believe affects most of us at one point or another, can bring hopelessness, loneliness, a loss of motivation. Mania can produce paranoid thoughts like, my doctor is trying to kill me, and can spark irritability and impulsive behaviors, such as adopting 17 kittens or DMing naked photos to random celebrities. Note, I have not done either of these. But bipolar has its positives. The long list of high-achieving people who were or are likely bipolar includes Catherine Zeta-Jones, Jimi Hendrix, and Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton most likely experienced hypomania, a milder form of mania that can bring intense productivity and heightened creativity, which likely enabled him to write 51 of the 85 Federalist Papers in just 8 months. Demi Lovato has credited her hypomania with the ability to write up to 7 songs in one night. And mine enabled me to create a new religion, which no one's heard of, in 3. Hypomania and mania also can come with what's called conceptual over-inclusiveness, the ability to make loose connections between seemingly unrelated thoughts and ideas. In one study, participants were asked questions like, are feet vehicles? And those with over-inclusive thinking replied yes, more quickly than the others. Mania and hypomania can also produce grand thinking, like seeing that what we think of as reality is just 1%, and the other 99% lies behind an invisible curtain where the spiritual versions of ourselves are watching and cheering us on. These breaks in reality are often dismissed as psychosis, but what if psychosis is just unbridled imagination? Because of the intense productivity, heightened creativity, conceptual over-inclusiveness, and grand thinking, people with bipolar have the ability to see the big picture of a happier world. Mental disorder can be a superpower. So what about autism? Autism may be caused by a dysfunctional cingulate gyrus, which affects social behavior. And that may explain why autistic people often have trouble making friends or seeing themselves in another person's shoes. The cingulate gyrus also affects cognitive flexibility, which may explain why autistic people often get stuck in routines. And finally, the cingulate gyrus connects the occipital and temporal lobes, where visual and auditory information are processed, with emotions. And that may explain why autistic people often have a lot of sensitivity to sound and light. But autism has its positives. The way that autistic people see themselves in the world socially means they don't care much about what others think of them. And that enables them to be disarmingly honest and straightforward, less likely to judge others, more likely to take people at their word, and more likely to question social norms. Autistic people also often have a high attention to detail and an exceptionally high level of skill in a certain area or more, often science, math, music, and art. One study showed that 28% of autistic people have such a savant-level skill. The long list of high-achieving people who most likely were or are autistic includes Temple Grandin, Emily Dickinson, and Steve Jobs. Jobs was so attentive to detail, he took personal interest in the number of screws in a laptop case. Too bad he wasn't around when mine was built. Rights issues. Because of their attention to detail, savant-level skills, and the way they see themselves in the world socially, autistic people have the ability and are essential for taking the big visions of people with bipolar and putting them into practice. Mental disorder can be a superpower. So what about ADHD? Short for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD may be caused by low levels of the neurotransmitters norepinephrine and dopamine, which interact with the brain's frontal cortex, the center of attention, and reticular activating system, a cluster of neurons in the brainstem that helps us decide where to focus. The reticular activating system is responsible for selective attention, like hearing your name pop out in the middle of a crowd, or when we look for the color yellow, we see more of it. It also enables us to manifest, because when we look for evidence that we can achieve our dreams, we start to see it. People with ADHD are often restless and have trouble sustaining attention for tasks and subjects they don't find interesting. This is because the low dopamine levels motivate them to seek quick dopamine hits rather than taking actions that aren't immediately reinforcing. They're also often hypervigilant, constantly tracking sights and sounds, which can be distracting. And that could explain why people with ADHD often like background noise, like having the TV on while doing homework, or my fiance playing games on her phone while listening to me practice the speech. Actually happened. Twice. But ADHD has benefits. The hypervigilance that comes with it allows people with ADHD to see who would be a trustworthy teammate and who might not. The time and mental space freed up by not focusing on things they don't care about enables people with ADHD to hyperfocus on what they are passionate about. This has helped people like John Lennon, Simone Biles, and Eleanor Roosevelt to do their best work. And finally, the restlessness brings a sense of adventure. And adventurousness means taking risks. And taking risks can change the world. Mental disorder can be a superpower. We say the word disorder as though it is a bad thing. But what if this lack of order, this chaos, is exactly what gives us, all of us, imaginations, our creativity? What if we bring together the big thinking of bipolar people, the attention to detail of autistic people, and the hyper-focus of ADHD people? How much more quickly and collaboratively could we build a more harmonious world? Nobody's brain is perfect. We all have our struggles and superpowers. I focus on these three groups because we often think of them as less able to contribute, but that is a false narrative. It took me 9 years and a second manic episode to finally accept that I was, in fact, bipolar. Because like many, I saw my mental disorder as a shameful flaw. And if we continue to hide our mental experiences from each other, we will live in fear and isolation. But if we begin to share what's going on inside, no matter how shameful it feels or how scary it is, we will be free to be ourselves. And only then can we truly work together. I believe that beneath everything else, we all share one thing: brains that are just a little broken. That's how the light gets in. Thank you.